Welcome to Two Deep Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast brought to you by Jack and Coke. I'm your host, Pete B, and I not only have Sam Jesse here, as I normally do, but I've also got Clark Ruhland. Clark, thanks for being here tonight, man.
Hey, good to be here, fellas. It's been a little while since we talked uniforms.
Yeah. And you've got some script on, and we had the script helmets on about a week ago, and so we'll chat about that.
Oh yeah.
Sam, why don't you kick us off with the cheers?
My cheers tonight, Pete and Clark, is to the best sports time of the year. I believe it is these next 3 weeks. If I had to pick 3 weeks of any time of the year, it's the last week of October and the first 2 weeks of November. World Series is on. Hockey has started up. NBA has started up. At the tail end of this 3 weeks, college basketball will start up. And college football is at its peak. So cheers to the best sports time of the year.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And tonight, we are sipping on some pumpkin beer because this is the last pumpkin beer episode we're going to do. We've done them all month. That's a little atypical, but this is going to be one where we talk about it a little bit more. I'm going to sample a few. I think Clark is going to sample a couple, and we're going to chat a little bit about pumpkin beer. And Sam may have just a little something special as well. So this is going to be a fun one. We were both in the Berg, Sam, as well as Clark. Clark makes just about every game, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't get to go down so often, so it was great. I did regret, and I said this on College Football Monday, that I wasn't able to stop over Clark's tailgate. And that's the problem with a noon kickoff, is that it's great for after the game, but before the game, it's hard to get around and say what's up to everyone you want to talk to.
It's hard to get to see everybody any weekend.
Yes.
Less one where you're driving the far distance to Blacksburg.
I mean, this might be the earliest plug that we have had in Sons of Saturday history, but that's kind of why spring game weekend is so awesome, because there's no like pressure of the actual game. You can kind of just hang out with people the whole time. So it was a great weekend. The weather was gorgeous. And it was a good game for the Hokies. Anytime they win, it's a good game. I don't care how ugly it looks, Pete. It's a good one.
Because we did beat Georgia Tech 21-6. But before we get to the game breakdown, news and notes, beer, I thought the game atmosphere was pretty darn good for a nooner. I mean, the stadium, when it started, was very full. Now, I wasn't in my seats when Enter Sandman happened because of various things that happened with tickets and whatnot, but the corners were full. The flyover was awesome. One of the pilots had our sticker on his helmet that was flying in one of those helicopters, which is, we don't even make the Beat GT stickers, but he got a hold of the image and put it on his helmet. So that was really cool. It was the Sons of Saturday logo. And then the music in the stadium. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. Ever since Billy was complaining that our music isn't as good as other stadiums, I feel like it's been really good.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought the crowd was great. I thought there was a couple times there in the second half where it was loud on third and fourth down. So credit to the fans for being loud for a noon game, and especially one that wasn't the most exciting game. A lot of punts, a lot of ugly football there. We'll talk about that. But yeah, credit to Hokie faithful were just unbelievable. The game day experience was great. The flyovers, the music,
the weather.
The weather was great. Like,
oh, it's perfect.
Couldn't ask for more.
It's a great October weekend. And Maroon Effect, of all the effects that we do, I'm not sure it's my favorite, but I do like how easy it is for it to look full of maroon because any dark color kind of works. And I was joking on my walk over, like I had so many different shades of maroon on. Like this one even is like a more heathered. You got the dark colors, but we showed out for homecoming and we showed out for a nooner, as Hokie Nation always does. It was a fun day. We got a 6-day hold if we want to go to our news and notes for the Clemson kickoff time.
Awful.
It doesn't seem like it's gonna be a night game.
Hey, you never know.
It could be the night ACC game.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's and I mean I'm not going to ever claim to be the most in the know Hokie person, but I thought a few weeks ago it was like, yeah, they're planning on the 7 p.m. night slate or 8 p.m. whatever it is.
It's
whether
possible.
That was ESPN or ACC Network, but
I just noticed that for one thing, we lost a few games early. We've kind of been hoping this whole time that maybe we would get game day or maybe we'd both be ranked or whatever. That kind of went out the window a long time ago.
Mhm.
The other problem just more recently, though, is that this Saturday night, Clemson and Louisville are on ESPN. And so they're not going to, I wouldn't imagine, put Clemson on ESPN 2 weeks in a row. Now, I didn't actually think about the fact that maybe we could be on ACC network, but whatever. I had to bring it up. We talk game times here on occasion. The Syracuse game was on a 6-day hold and got put at high noon. So that's what we got coming up this weekend. But I guess what are you rooting for, Clark?
Honestly, we take it whatever we get.
You don't care.
I mean,
okay.
The noon game, we're going to be there. 8:00 game, we're going to be there. The 3:30 game or 4:00 or whatever the day, whatever the time. But it's hard to make plans. I was talking to my mom this morning about the tailgate plans, and I was like, well, we don't know if we're going to do breakfast or we're going to do dinner. We got to wait for the ACC. Like Sam was saying, this was a noon game this past weekend, and the crowd was into it. The crowd was there. It was awesome. It was a great atmosphere. So it'll only get amped up even more just because it's Clemson. And if it's at noon, people will be there, and some all-nighters, it.
All right, so let's get to the depth chart. What we really need to talk about is Tootin and Chaplin. And we got a little bit of good news on social media today when we saw that Tootin was not only practicing, but running with no viewable brace. He looked like he was running unimpeded, not in a blue contact jersey, nothing. And it actually scared some people, I think, to see him running that freely.
Was that picture from this practice?
I wondered that too.
I don't think it is.
Oh, we're doing conspiracy theory?
So there is, Colby Crawford put out a picture of him at today's practice with, I don't believe he had a boot or a brace on and no blue jersey. But then there were other reports that he was not really practicing. He was just kind of there. What I tweeted out earlier this evening, he should be doing absolutely nothing but rest, ice, compression, and elevation from now until game time. You don't need him to practice this week.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. If he managed to avoid the bad injury, which it seems like he did, probably indicated as much, bubble wrap until game day, put him in bubble wrap, because without him, this team is just totally different.
Yeah. All right. And then for Xavier Chaplin, looks like he was out there. Looks like he's good. He seems to have taken a lot of bumps and bruises, somewhat unfortunate ones. I think this is the
especially ODU.
Yeah, I think this is the second time this season he's had a 300-pound plus person step directly on his ankle. Yeah. That doesn't sound fun. And I think he also had it looks like a chest or a inside shoulder injury that he also got against Georgia Tech. Tough guy. Indicates that he should be back there for Syracuse, but definitely not at 100%, we could say.
He was really trying to get up while he was on the field. He was trying to get up and continue to play, and you could tell he was mad, his body language, he was pissed off that he had to come out of the game or that he got hurt or whatever. But yeah, he's a tough guy. Tootin's tough. They'll hopefully both be out there. At least Tootin should be. Burgos, we mentioned this at the very end of CFP Monday, that Burgos talked about playing both sides of the ball. And in a pinch, if we had tackle issues, Burgos playing tackle was something that has come up, which I was very surprised by, because he's big for sure, but I don't think he's offensive lineman big.
No. It doesn't really have that build, but maybe he knows the footwork from high school or something.
Yeah.
He practices against it, so.
That's true. And he was kind of laughing about it, so I didn't know if it was fully serious, but it sounded like it was probably had mentioned it and that it was a little serious. But all right, let's keep moving here. CFB Monday, me and Sam recorded on Monday. It was fun show, playoff predictions. Make sure you check that out. The Pick'em leaders, one guy named M. Bagel went 9-1 this weekend, Sam, moves into first place. And there's a couple things that happened. One, I forgot to fill up my picks. In the rigmarole of me trying to get down to Blacksburg and packing up on Thursday, leaving Friday early, didn't fill out the picks. That never happens to me, and I was super pissed. Fitted Jones, who's been in the lead all year, also forgot to fill out his picks. has no, and so he dropped all the way to he's still in fifth. That's how good he was doing. I dropped way down. I'm gonna get on my horse. I'm gonna try to catch up here, but that was just a bummer. Regardless, M Bagel, shout out to you. 9-1 in first place. Sean D 08 is still up there. He went 8-2. He's in second place. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Before we get to the game recap, let's have our first sampling of pumpkin beer. And Clark, I believe you want to do a little. You want to do a little crack?
Oh, a little crack, yeah, absolutely. So I got the Left Hand Brewing pumpkin spice latte nitro.
Oh,
And
I like Left Hand. They make some nice beer.
Left Hand, their stout is excellent. The milk stout.
Yeah, the milk stout. Yeah,
I mean, that's one of my favorite beers. But it's a nitro beer, so it's got the little nitro cartridge in the base of it, and it
like
makes a wonderful sound. So let me crack it open here.
Ooh, I could use that on like a soundboard going forward.
That was crispy.
Oh yes, it's delightful. And you got to pour.
So while you are pouring that thing, I'm going to talk about my beer. I've got a pumpkin ale from Smutty Nose Brewing Company. I've had Smutty Nose on the podcast. I don't believe I've ever had this one. 5.9% alcohol, ale brewed with pumpkin and spices. That is the standard description you see across all these things. But Smutty Nose comes out of Hampton, New Hampshire. It's one of those Northeast old breweries. This one's been around a long time. There's not me. I want to say like, oh, look at that, Clark.
That is milky.
It's coming down like a Guinness in the
glass.
glass.
Nitro. This is just glorious.
Yeah. The Smutty is easy drinking, under 6%, not crazy amount of flavor. So if you're like, enjoy a pumpkin beer, but you still want something you could drink again and again, almost like a lager feel.
Shipyard's good with that.
This is good. Yes. This reminds me a little bit of the Shipyard. You'll get a little bit more cinnamon or nutmeg punch in the Shipyard than you will with the Smutty Nose. Give us a sample of what you got over there, Clark.
Obviously, it's extremely smooth. It's a little got a good little flavor. It's got a little coffee flavor to it. I mean, it's got it's definitely got the latte flavor. Okay. It's good on the
and it looks like you can see through it in the glass.
Yeah, once the pour finally, goes all the way up to the head,
that looks glorious.
Pretty clear glass. This is a Sycamore Brewing glass from Sycamore Brewing down in Charlotte. So it's a really to show the beer. But it's got excellent flavor. The nutmeg, the cinnamon, and the coffee really round everything.
Have you ever had that one before?
I bought a 4-pack at our local beer shop, Barrel Chest, here in town. And that's how I found out about the little cartridge in the bottom. It's like a little white cartridge that's stuck to
it looks like a tiny
can.
ping pong ball.
Yeah. And so like when you hold the can up, it's empty, but it feels like there's something inside. And so I actually took a pocket knife and opened it up just to look at the little cartridge thing that was stuck in the bottom. So it's similar to the Guinness one. The Guinness one floats. This one is secured to the base
Interesting.
of the can. But yeah, the nitro, man, it's so good. So smooth.
I have to get my hands on one of those. All right, Sam, what are you having over there? You are not doing a pumpkin right now.
I'm not. I'm out of pumpkin beers. It's been a whole month.
You finished, because you were drinking the 2 silo. I asked you about your
out of the
rating
2 silos. I've had a couple others,
but you're drinking a special gift.
Yeah, it was a gift from my podcast partner. Actually, this is the Haze from Treehouse, the quintessential New England IPA brewery. This is their hazy double IPA, and when I say hazy, I mean,
it's New England, baby.
like hazy, you're taking a couple hits off of the coffee table bong, if you know what I'm saying, type hazy. This thing is milky. And I'll tell you though, it is so smooth. A lot of times double IPAs, you get that either whether they're bourbon barrel or whether they're just like overly hoppy, they kind of they're a little sharp, they kind of hit you. This doesn't. It has definitely the bite of just a single IPA. Really good. It says the flavor notes are peach, papaya, orange juice. I definitely get peach and orange. Not as much papaya, but I got to be honest, I don't think I've ever had a papaya.
I don't know what a papaya really tastes like.
So I get peach though, but it is really smooth. It's a great fall beer. Treehouse, I've had 1 or 2 before. This is like a 4.25 though. Like this is as smooth as hazies get.
Very nice.
Thank you very much. For
Yeah,
this.
no, man, no problem, man. I was able to drop that off when
Cheers,
we went
fellas.
to. I finally got to cheers, Clark. I finally got to the brewery that we've been talking about that you've told me about, Clark. Help me out, Sam. The one we went to in Blacksburg.
Eastern Divide.
Eastern Divide.
Eastern Divide.
Yeah.
I finally got to go there with
Good spot.
Sam
Their
and
beer
some
has
friends.
gotten progressively better throughout the years.
Mhm.
Nice.
It's a very, very good brewery.
Good food too.
Yes,
Good
their
food, too.
fries, their like garlic fries are freaking excellent.
Yeah, setting is fantastic. All right, game recap. People are tired of hearing us talk about beer because we're going to get back to it. So just get ready. Fumble on the first play of the game was maybe a little bit of a bad sign due to some pressure on Kyron. Got it smacked out of his hands, but he got it back. And that drive went nowhere. GT went up 3-0 with a decent first drive, but we came back a couple later with the touchdown to Benji Gosnell. And that was the 4-play, 72-yard drive. That was awesome. And Benji is becoming a real weapon for us. And it's really fun to come back to that in a second. GT got another field goal before we put up a touchdown on the Philly special. Again, I said my worlds were colliding on College Football Monday, and they were 14-6 Virginia Tech. We added another TD in the third, which was just kind of a miserable quarter. There were 11 total drives in the third quarter between the two teams. 7 of the 11 failed to get a first down. So it was very poor offensive football. And the fourth quarter was really more of the same. We did a terrible job of trying to salt it away and GT just kept screwing up, which was fortunate for us. And we won 21-6. I want to start by saying that we won and that we covered. And so that's great. Winning these ugly games and winning against Georgia Tech has been a problem lately.
3 wins in a row. First time since 2019. First time under Brent Pry.
Yes, sir.
4 covers in a row. That's nice. I'm not going to apologize for it. I am not going to apologize for it, but that was horrific.
So you're telling me the books can't catch up to Virginia Tech?
Well, what I would say is Virginia Tech is outperforming expectations week over week for the 4th straight week. And that's impressive. That's impressive. Theoretically, a good team should go 7-5 against the spread. So winning 4 in a row is against the spread. Obviously, against the spread isn't what matters, but it does show you that this team is improving week over week.
Good teams win, great teams cover. I mean,
exactly.
That's how it goes. So let's take a quick listen to the voicemails before we react any further. You can tell that the game was neither good nor bad because of how few voicemails we got. And here we go.
Feels like we got lucky. The quarterback was hurt and the receivers suck. Defense played well, but the offense left them out to dry in the second half. And because of that, Tootin had to be involved late and got seriously hurt.
Hey, Pete. Hey, Sam. Let me tell y'all, today's game really took a physical toll on me. You know, I'm sitting there feeling like I'm about to have a heart attack, and then when Tootin went down, I said, well, hell, let me just put myself out of my misery. So naturally, I choked down 3 chili dogs to seal the deal. And then Sam, you know what I'm talking about. And then we ended up winning the game. And I'm like, oh, man, I shouldn't have done that. But, well, I'm still here for now. I might let y'all know how it goes. But them chili dogs are just not sitting right. And just hoping the heart attack might subside until the Syracuse game.
A conference win is great. It just feels like we lose that kind of game playing against most other teams in the conference.
Oh, yeah. The Hokies.
Okay, so there was another call from Devin that was inaudible. I could kind of tell what he was saying, but the audio was poor, so I didn't put it in. But
Devin contributed to our pregame toast before the game, which was great.
Yeah, he said something to the degree of I don't care how bad Georgia Tech's passing defense is, run the damn ball. And we tried. We did try. It didn't go that well. But that one call about the chili dogs, and he's like, I choked down 3 chili dogs. Sam, you know what I'm talking about. That was the weirdest call.
Martinsville chili dogs, because it's Martinsville race weekend, right?
Oh, yeah. I will say, that was a credit to the crowd for sticking in it. I think there were a lot of people who felt like that was a really bad performance from, especially the defense played great, but offensively, that was one of the worst performances we've seen from Virginia Tech in a while. And the fact that you come out of that with a 15-point win in a game that a lot of people thought Tech might lose, like preseason, that was a 50-50 game, that Georgia Tech matchup. And Georgia Tech has looked pretty good at points this year. And, is it with their backup quarterback? Yeah, but that's also a backup quarterback who's beaten you in Lane Stadium before and who's played a lot of football games, and they have a very good defensive line and they have a very good running back. So
that's
this
good
had
point.
a very, very mid 2000s Tech game feel to it. Like the defense rose up, made the plays, stopped them on a lot of fourth downs. The offense did enough to win the game. And so it kind of had that Sean Glennon, Tyrod early season kind of, feel to it. And hey, they still covered. So, I mean, they took care of it.
And Pete, that's maybe my like story of the game. Third and fourth down defense. Georgia Tech was 6 of 24. That's 25% on third and fourth downs. You're going to win a lot of games when you hold teams to that.
Yeah.
And Tech was pretty abysmal on third down themselves.
Really bad.
It kind of came out in the wash because they were able to get some big plays early in downs. And, when you hold a team to 6 of 24 on late downs, you're going to win that game most of the time. So that for me was a really, really good step for this defense to be that consistently good throughout a game.
Definitely. All right. Let me take a second to talk about the sponsor, and we'll kind of get into more of the offensive and defensive details and some players that had good games. 2 Deep Hokies Under the Influence is brought to you by Jack and Coke. You can see the can right on your screen. 2 legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke. True. Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey and Coca-Cola, or Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, is now available in a can in your local grocery and convenience stores. 2 legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke, ready to drink. And as always, when you're drinking Jack and Coke or pumpkin beer, please remember to drink responsibly. So Sam said his story of the game was, I guess, what you were saying, like the failure to execute on third down ish, or just like a bad offense on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it was Virginia. When Virginia Tech's defense needed to make a play, they made a play all game long, and that was really impressive to me.
Clark, what would you say your story of the game was?
My story of the game, going back to the crowd, this was the kind of game that the crowd knew which third downs were important. It was different than, because not everybody's going to be extremely loud on every third down, but every time the crowd got really, really into it, the D-line made a big play. Panay, we're going to talk about him, I'm sure. That dude just, something clicked in him. I guess it was the crowd that just got into it, but that dude, he was just all over the place. It was fun to see some of the guys that we haven't heard names from a lot this year make some big plays. And so I think everybody kind of saw that, like, other guys are stepping up that we don't hear on a week-to-week basis.
And to your point on Panay, he had the sack, but he also had 5 solo tackles. That is
all over the place.
Pretty unique for a defensive lineman to have that many solo tackles. 3 hurries for APR. So again, that's kind of goes back to what you're saying. Like, APR didn't have any stats but hurries, really. But like, other people stepped up. Like Keontae Jenkins, a fantastic game from him.
Dude, he was crazy.
Yeah. He had 8 solo tackles. So I mean, unreal statistical performance from
and
him.
Some
2
big
of those
third down tackles too.
Oh yes. He added a hurry as well. Jaden Keller continues his fantastic play. 8 tackles and a pass breakup. Delane, Woodson, Brumfield, they all put up some good tackle numbers. Now, there were a lot of plays from Georgia Tech to get a lot of tackle numbers, but guys were contributing, and plays from that linebacking core, when I'm talking about Jenkins and Woodson and Brumfield, Keller, that is going to be so important in the Syracuse game because they do a lot of short passing game. And so we'll get to that later, but that is an encouraging sign. But really good games out of a lot of different players on defense. We had a streak of 5 straight drives in the middle of the game where GT didn't get a first down. 5 straight drives. That is hard to do. So although they put up 356 yards, which isn't some like super low total, they had endless chances, 14 drives, and almost half of their yards came on 4 drives at the end of the game when they were in full desperation mode, setting like caution to the wind. And so even statistically, it was a good defensive performance, but it was actually better than I think the stat sheet even lets on.
Yeah, and one stat I know I put in the text thread earlier that was really, really impressive to me. 68% of Georgia Tech's running plays went for 2 or less yards. 56 of their passing plays went for 0 or negative yards.
Wow.
That means that
plays.
56%
Oh,
of their passing plays.
56%.
Sorry. Which means that 61% of Georgia Tech's total plays for the game went for 2 or less yards.
Wow.
That's how you win a game, playing god-awful offense.
Yeah.
And that was really impressive to me. Like, Tech had more yards per rush than Georgia Tech.
And they only had
did not feel like that.
Right. No, we only had 3 yards a carry, and that's because we really couldn't get anything going, whether it was the passing game or the running game. We only averaged 3.8 yards per play. I said it was our lowest of the season. Sam, you said something like it's one of our lowest total yardage
it was
totals in a while, and it's our third lowest in the last 3 years. So it was pretty bad. I guess we're good for about one stinker a year. Last year was against Louisville, though.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect it to come against this Georgia Tech defense, right, Clark?
The Georgia Tech defense was impressive. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Tech's been moving the ball the last couple of games, and they wanted to stop the run. They did what Boston College couldn't do. Mm-hmm. They focused on stopping the run, and they made Tech a little bit more one-dimensional. But in that case, they still were able to get some passes into the end zone.
Yeah, they had 11 tackles for loss. Like our offensive line, if you want another story about a specific unit, it was the offensive line struggled mightily in this game. They allowed 11 tackles for loss. We only got 3 yards of carry. And Drones from the beginning was in trouble, like under pressure, having to run around. And so this was definite. Like we've had some bad offensive line performances, but this was definitely the worst of the year so far. Mm-hmm. And maybe like worse than any of the ones last year. It was really poor.
This was the first game since Louisville last year.
Yeah.
And maybe only the second game in the Brent Pry, in the last 2 years of Brent Pry, with this iteration of the roster and stuff, where I thought the opposing defense really had everything figured out. Like Georgia Tech was selling out on that outside run every single time, and they just had more guys than we had blockers. They read the motion really well in the backfield. They did not allow Stephen Gosnell or Jalen Lane to get open in the middle of the field. They were really well prepared for this game. So I give them a lot of credit. But again, like that was one of the worst offensive games we've seen from Virginia Tech in a while. The expected points added per play was negative 0.24. That's in the 11th percentile of all FBS versus FBS games since the beginning of 2022. That's bad. That is horrific against a defense that was not great coming in. So,
yeah, they're improved. Like that, the Georgia Tech defense is improved, and the rushing defense, like Clark said, is way better than it was a year ago. Mm-hmm, but absolutely. I didn't see it going quite like this. If we want to give a highlight to offense, Drones did score in all 3 different ways, which was pretty cool. Which was pretty cool. Neat. I mean, he ran a touchdown, he threw a touchdown, and he caught a touchdown on the Philly special. Pretty sweet. And it gave Jalen Lane the stat on the year that he scored in 4 different ways, which includes the punt return, because he threw, he ran, he caught, and he had a punt return. Yes. So that's the first time anyone in the ACC has done that since 2009. So pretty cool for Jalen Lane as well. 5 receptions for Benji, as I already said. I mean, the way he catches the ball, maybe the throws aren't good. Maybe he's a little bit more acrobatic than he needs to be. But I feel like every time Benji catches it, it's like, oh, that was a nice catch.
He's always got one of those like special highlights every game.
Yeah.
He had a couple in this game, but the catch on the sideline late in the first half, I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah, and the one against BC too was so good. So yeah, he's really becoming a weapon, as I said earlier. And the brothers Gosnell are now second and third leading receiver in terms of yardage on the team, which I'm tired of saying wasn't on my bingo card kind of thing. But like, I didn't see that coming. I did not see the Gosnell brothers being 2 and 3 in the receiving yardage totals.
I have only two more thoughts on the offense.
Sure.
First one is this is the second straight game that we haven't seen much production from Jalen Lane or Ollie Jennings. Feel like those guys are going to need.
This is like the 6th straight game with no production from Ollie Jennings.
They're going to need a little something there. I know we want to be a run the ball first team, but going to need something there because Jalen Lane is your playmaker on offense outside of Tootin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's your guy. Gonna have to find a way to spring him open. And the other thing I wanted to point out was Tech had only 5 drives in this game that either crossed the Georgia Tech 40 or they scored. They only had 5 drives of that. They got 3 scores in total, which equated to 4.2 points per those drives. That's actually pretty good. That's like top 25 rate in the country. So when Tech did get in scoring position, they turned it into touchdowns. Now, I think it looked a lot worse because they started the 2 drives where they didn't score touchdowns on those. They started inside Georgia Tech's 40 and got no points. So obviously would have liked to get at least 3 points on those drives. But the Tech offense, once it got going on drives, did score touchdowns. The issue was, like you said about the third quarter, the 3 and outs really hurt this team's rhythm. They weren't able to get Tootin a lot of touches. They weren't able to get Kyron out of the pocket a lot. They just ended up punting a lot of times. And credit to Tyler Bowen for cooking up what he did cook up, because a lot of offensive coordinators would have not scored a lot of points in that game.
Yeah. No, and the last thing we should mention before we kind of move on and final takeaways and get to Syracuse, because it's a key game for us coming up. Special teams. Peter Moore. What a great game from our punter, man. He punted 10 times, 490 yards. Do the math. That's 49 yards per punt. 5 of them went over 50, and he had a 57-yard punt in the game. That is another reason we were able to win the game with poor offensive stats, is because we were winning that hidden yardage field position battle. Him and Jalen Lane both kind of helped us out at different points in the game. Do you have final takeaways, Clark? Anything you want to kind of say about this game before we move on?
A win is a win. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Hey, they did enough to win. They kept Georgia Tech in check, and Georgia Tech, I mean, they played some great games this year. So to take care of business at home, you got to be able to do that. And then they're getting ready to hit the road.
Yeah, man. All right, Sam, final takeaways? Have you said your piece?
Yeah, let's have that one be the stinker of the year.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I want the OL to just flush that game, because whether it's the 11 TFL, the 2 sacks, the 4 hurries allowed, or the 3 yards of carry, that was bad. That was stinky, man. And so let's move on, flush it, and let's go. And I'm actually kind of happy about it, Clark, in a way, because did we get the dome stinker out of the way the game before the dome? That's kind of what I'm hoping happens.
I hope so, man. That would be great.
So let's move on to our second beer break. Are you having another beer over there, Clark, you want to talk about?
Well, I'm still working on the left hand.
Well, let's go, Clark. It's been 20 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I kind of I'm doing half.
God, man. Jeez.
Well, I'll come back to you because I know you have another one that you
I got another good one.
I'm doing this one, and I think this is something you might like, Clark. This is the Kentucky.
I've seen that. Yes.
Pumpkin Barrel Ale. I've seen just their regular barrel ales. This Kentucky brand makes some other one. It's aged in bourbon barrels. That's why it has the name, but this is their pumpkin version. I was expecting it to be like very, very dark in the glass, but it really pours like your typical lager. Like it's an ale. It's not a stout or anything else, but I still was expecting it to be darker. And when I poured it, it was like super fizzy, like more carbonation than I was expecting.
Cheers. Still working on the left hand. So.
Oh, that's really good. Some of these barrel beers, Sam and I were discussing it last week. They just punch you right in the face, and it takes you a few sips to warm up to it.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell it was aged in a bourbon barrel, but it's a lot smoother. Like, I'm actually surprised how smooth it is. Like, I'm trying to see if I got, because it's 10% alcohol, by the way. I knew it was strong.
That'll
but
get
like,
after you.
That's why,
Coach
yeah.
Beamer
That's
would
why
say.
I was like, oh man, this is going to be really like, I was kind of like bracing for it, but it's really not bad at all. This would be
Question-
great with a cigar.
Yeah, question for y'all on the pumpkin beers. I'm curious what your thought is. Would you rather it be kind of the more pumpkin pie dessert type pumpkin beer, or would you rather have the spiced, aromatic, maybe bourbon barrel type flavor?
I think I know what Clark's going to say, but Clark, you go first.
Oh,
So there's two types, really.
I like the pumpkin pie kind of flavoring to it. I like a dessert beer, like Southern Tier King. But any kind of pumpkin beer is good. I mean, the next one that I'm about to open is much more pumpkin flavored and less sweet flavored, but it's very good.
Well, speaking of pumpkin, you have sampled the caramel pumpkin.
Yes.
You had some at the game this past Saturday.
I had
have
it
sampled
before
it
the
a
Boston
few
college game.
Okay.
Walking to the stadium.
A few weeks back, I got to sample one at a family party. And I'll say this about it. Like, I love original pumpkin. It's a classic. It's changed a little bit over the years. Every batch is a little different, but it's still a great beer. The caramel one is caramely. Like, you can it definitely comes through. I'm not sure. I don't like it more than the original. I'll say that, but it is very good.
It had a good flavor to it. I kind of expected it to be a little bit sweeter for being caramel flavored.
It wasn't sweeter. Yeah, I agree with that. Just kind of more of a malt. And me and you both, since we're not having it tonight, we both love the Warlock from Southern Tier.
We had that before or after the Rutgers game.
Yes, and I've got one in my fridge right now. I'm saving, but it is one of my favorite pumpkin beers every year. It's a stout, and it's a heavy
Dark and
one.
delightful.
Yeah, I want to say it's 9.2.
It's an hour sipper for sure.
Yeah. You want to get that in front of a fire pit and sip that thing down in some cool weather. Like, honestly, Halloween night after dark, that is a great time to drink a Warlock. And so that's just, since we're doing the pumpkin beer episode, that's kind of what I want to do, is just like filter in some of these conversations. So great beer break, fellas. I enjoy the Kentucky Pumpkin Barrel Age. I'm going to continue to sip it. I might give a rating a little bit later.
All right. So I finished the left hand. So now Sam can get off my back a little bit.
All right, pour it, and then let's do a review in a little bit, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, 2 Deep Hokies Zone. The Influence is also brought to you by Roback. Roback is the performance activewear designed for those who crave activity. You guys know Roback. You know you can use code 2DEEPVT to get 20% off your order. I said on our last show that I got one of the new drop polos. It is awesome. It is the Lane Stadium one. They also have the TV logo polo. They have the TV logo hoodie. They have the quarter zips. So much good gear. If you don't want the licensed stuff, they have the Commonwealth. It's a little bit less expensive. You can get 20% off that too. So go to the site, load up your cart, grab something for your girl or your guy or the significant other in your life. And if you don't have a significant other, get something for your mom or your dad or whatever. Load up your cart. You don't want to waste that 20% on just anything. 2 Deep VT, Roback Crave Activity. So this series with Syracuse hasn't been favorable to the Hokies overall. Now, we've won some games and we've had some blowouts. How about 62-0?
I was at that game.
Were you really?
Oh, absolutely.
What year was that? That was
1999.
Yeah, I thought so.
That was the year.
I was going to then I started thinking like Clark wouldn't have been at the 1999 game, but that's awesome, dude.
I think my first game when I was ever in Lane Stadium when I was alive was like a 32-7 Tech win over Syracuse in Lane Stadium.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We've had some interesting games against Syracuse at home.
Yep.
We have and a lot of competitive games, a lot of funky things that happen. We are 9-11 all time against them though. And that's when it comes to Big East foes, there's not a lot of them where we have a losing record overall. And so I found that interesting because Syracuse in the 90s, like they were rolling, man. Paul Pasqualoni, like Donovan McNabb, Marvin
Dwight
Harrison, Dwight Freeney, like they had dudes. And I know if you want more of this kind of stuff, listen to Billy and Pat because they went into a lot of it on their show this week and it was good. But we've never won more than 2 in a row against this team. We happened to beat them last year. So if we win this weekend, we will tie the longest winning streak in our history against Syracuse. And when we go to the Dome, that's been a talking point, right? Like it's cursed. Like in 2016, we were cooking, man. Fuente finally gave us an offense. We were feeling good about ourselves. 49-0. we beat BC. 54-17, we beat ECU. The Hurricane game, Mitch Trubisky can't do a damn thing against us, 34-3. And then we go up to the Dome, 19-point favorites, maybe 19 and a half at one point. I took us to cover. Didn't think there'd be a problem. We got a Fuente offense. What could go wrong? I met Clark at the bar before the game, one of the first times I ever met him in person. And we lost, and it sucked
Laid
so
an egg.
bad.
I vividly remember being in the end zone and looking across over to the sideline and seeing the Hokie bird just sitting. And I'm like, yep, me too.
Yeah, man.
Just one of those days. Like I don't know if anybody's ever been to Tropicana Field. If you've been there down in Tampa, but it felt like walking in there. Had the low hanging ceiling, like it just felt a little stale. It didn't feel like football.
And was that your first time ever going there?
Yes, that's the only time I've ever been there, and got that on my bingo card, and I'm done. I'm never Syracuse.
I remember when
it feel like football when you walk in there.
No, it doesn't. I said after that game, like it's as if when you're a kid and the basement wasn't finished and it's just all cement, and maybe you and your friends are playing like roller hockey in the basement. Well, it's as if you took an unfinished basement and just rolled like green carpet over it. Like that's what it feels like when you're in that dome. It is very weird. They do sell Labatt Blue in the stadium though, which was pretty cool. Even back in 2016, they were selling Labatt Blues, and I drank too many of them. So we all remember the last two meetings in Lane Stadium against Syracuse. The one was a really tough loss where
great uniforms though.
Great uniforms. We did the
Great
99
uniforms.
throwbacks. They had the pass against Dorian, who may be in need of some redemption up in the Dome, wearing that number 44 is a historic number for Syracuse. And then last year was awesome. I mean, we crushed them on a Thursday night. It was one of the best games of the season, and it was similar to what Georgia Tech just did to Kyron, where like we got in on Schrader right away. And that, I think, Sam, is going to be a key in this game, is putting pressure on their quarterback.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, Pete, we talked about it preseason. We've talked about it during the season. We're going to talk about it now. Like, Syracuse has some talent. That talent does not put their hand in the dirt to start the play. They are not very good on the offensive line. They're not very good on the defensive line. This is not a team that wants to run the ball. They want to throw a lot. So you feel like APR can pin his ears back. Burgos, like we talked about, he can probably pin his ears back. And I really like the fact that Virginia Tech can rotate as many defensive tackles as they do and not really have a drop off on production, because Syracuse is a team that runs a lot of plays. So the fact that you can rotate those big guys in is going to be really key for Virginia Tech in this matchup.
Totally agree. And so let's give a lay of the land as we get a little deeper in here. Syracuse is a little bit lower in the ranking systems than I would have expected. And by lower, I mean worse. FPI, they are 67. We're 28. SP Plus, they're 61. We are top 25 at number 24. If you look at Sagarin, it's kind of a similar story. I had expected them to be top 50 just because they had a decent record. And I guess it's because their wins are Ohio, Georgia Tech, Holy Cross, NC State, who's had a miserable year, and UNLV. So is UNLV their best win? It very well might be.
It was an entertaining game, that's for sure.
In overtime.
Yeah. Watch that in the bar in Stanford.
And speaking of Stanford, they lost to them. Stanford can't get a win against anybody. And they beat Syracuse in the JMA Wireless Dome. And so that is still a mystifying result. And then when they did play a really good team, or at least a perceived good team in Pitt, they got their pants pulled down on national TV last Thursday night.
That was rough.
Yeah, I didn't. I was in the middle of the woods for that game, so I did not watch it. But once I got service the next morning, I saw the score, and that was shocking. That was an absolutely shocking result. So this has been a really interesting Syracuse team, but I also think it is kind of classic Syracuse, right? Like they beat up on Ohio in Holy Cross, and they get a fun win against UNLV and against Georgia Tech, but they're probably not that good.
No, and they have a first-year head coach in Fran Brown, and he is known for his recruiting. And he's a Georgia assistant, Jersey guy. He goes out and grabs a Jersey kid and Kyle McCord to come over from Ohio State. I know Kyle McCord went to school in Philadelphia, but he's originally from the next town over from me in New Jersey. His end game isn't here yet, right? Like if he's known for recruiting and bringing guys in, yes, he had a great first couple swings and getting a quarterback and some other guys to come in. It's going to take a little bit longer, but he did make an instant upgrade. It's just that those upgrades now have some film and people are starting to figure them out a bit. I don't think they're not a bad team, but like Sam said, it's in the trenches that they're going to struggle. So let's talk about McCord, because we saw him last year at Ohio State. They decide to move on from him, despite, them being top 10 all year and him playing pretty well. Now, he had an amazing wide receiving core, and he was 8th in the country in QBR. Like, he performed really, really well. But they saw something where they said, now we're good. And I'm wondering, Clark, is that now we're good what we saw last Thursday night when he threw 5 interceptions?
I mean, let's hope so, right?
Right.
Even if Tech can have half the success that Pitt did against
right.
them.
Give me 2 interceptions.
Hey, I'll
right?
take 2 pick sixes. I mean,
Yeah.
sign me up. Like, let's go. I mean, how often is that guy going to have that bad of a game in back-to-back weeks? I mean, I would not expect. I mean, it'd be typical to have him play his worst game the week before playing one of his best games. I mean, he's a quarterback. He's gonna learn from his mistakes. He's a good quarterback. So, I kind of expect him to pitch it a little bit around there, and hopefully the defense has their P's and Q's minded and can follow what Pitt did.
I agree. And sometimes you have with a quarterback where they're going good, and then something breaks, and then the wheels come off. I am hoping that that's what happened against Pitt. But even if it didn't, his overall efficiency throughout the season is not too much different than Kyron's, right, Sam?
No, it's not. And to be honest, I think it's a product of this team just does not want to run the football. They have a decent running back in the Quinn Allen. He's not what I would call explosive, but he is productive for them. But they kind of use him in the passing game a lot more. And so it is all on Kyle McCord. Like, it is all on his shoulders. So again, like, if you can get him pressure, if you can get him off his rocker a bit, you feel pretty good about stopping this Syracuse offense.
Yeah, it's just nuts how much they throw the football. And
they're just not interested in. They're almost like Mike Leach air raid. Like, they're adjacent to that.
They have the most pass attempts per game in the country. Kyle McCord's throwing the ball almost 50 times every game. It's 49.4. And then, like, there's only 4 guys that are over 40 in the whole country. Like, the gap between what they're doing and what even throw happy teams are doing is so much different. He has the same amount of pass attempts right now in 7 games that he did in 12 games last year. Like, it's crazy how much they're putting on him. And it's crazier when you consider just he has 135 passer rating. Now, I know that got knocked down a lot last week. It's not a small sample size. This is a 7-game sample size, and he's got 135 passer rating. That's not elite. It's not close to elite. No one would call Kyron Drones a very good passer, and he's at 133.
It is interesting. I mean,
and he doesn't run. Like, he has negative 44 rush yards on the year.
They are a one-trick pony on offense. Now, what I will say is that one trick can slice and dice you up and down the field. I mean, they did it. They've done it multiple times this year. They did it to Georgia Tech. They did it a bit to NC State, although that was a really weird and ugly and turnover-filled game. They've done it this year. Now, I think Virginia Tech is by far the best pass defense they've played by a significant margin. I do not think they have played a single good pass defense all year.
So,
like, Pittsburgh, I think could be, especially if they get 5 interceptions, but I think just Tech being able to,
in terms of talent, I think we have
better
corners than they faced. And the pick game got sideways, right? And sometimes things just
Right.
go sideways. But like it is a good matchup. The matchup nightmare though that I do see is Gadsden, right? Like he's a tight end, but he's a Bucky Hodges tight end. He's really a wide receiver. He's 6'5", 35 receptions, 3 touchdowns, 466 yards. 2 years ago, he had almost 1,000 yards as a tight end. I feel like he's even thinned out since then. I feel like he's even closer to a wide receiver now than he was 2 years ago. That is the guy. Like, I don't know who's going to be marking him. I don't know like what kind of zone or whatever we're going to run against him is, but like that's the guy to watch. The other guys are good, but they do so much short stuff. And all these guys have like, whatever averages. The only guy that has like a decent, like long distance average is Hatcher, tall, skinny kid from Woodbridge. He doesn't have that many catches, but he's the guy to watch deep. Everyone else, it's a lot of short stuff, a lot of underneath stuff. Gadsden is the matchup guy that I'm worried about.
Yeah,
and
they
reminds
do.
me of Heath Miller from UVA all those years ago.
Yeah.
They like Pena is a good wide receiver. They have him too. Like he's the guy who can make one-on-one catches. He's one of those like always finds his way open guys. So
him and Meeks, they both have
Yeah.
500 yards on the year because he's thrown for a lot of yards. So there's a lot of yards to go
Yeah,
around.
there are a lot of yards to go around. So it's an interesting offense. They're gonna try to run a lot of like 5 to 10 yard routes. They feast against zone defenses, so Tech will probably run a lot of man. It'll be an interesting challenge for this defense. Schematically, it'll be somewhat similar to what Marshall ran, except the quality of personnel is much, much higher for Syracuse than it was.
Yeah, the quarterback
Marshall.
was just god awful for Marshall. The O-line, let's finish offense with the O-line talk because you look at their yards per carry, it's 126th. TFL allowed 106. Sacks allowed 99th. This team really struggles up front. And that is like music to APR's ears. And
Especially when they're dropping back so much.
Right. I mean, yeah, exactly, Clark. Like you could get these stats and because these are all, I guess it's game averages and they are passing a lot. So I wonder on a per snap basis how bad it is, Sam, but it still seems pretty bad.
They run a lot of plays. Like they run a lot of plays. So some of if you try to rank their game averages to other ACC teams, it's a little wonky, especially defensively, which we'll get into later. But
well,
they're a good offense. They're not a great offense.
The rush yards per carry stands up because that's a per carry stat.
Right.
And the other thing is, even if you're passing a lot and so you're allowing a lot of TFL, every time there's a TFL or a sack, that is a havoc chance, right? That's a chance for a turnover. That's a chance for an interception. So it definitely is a detriment, even if it is on a worse, like not as bad on a per play basis.
Yeah. But it's just, again, they're a good offense. I wouldn't consider them a great offense. I wouldn't consider them a complicated offense.
But they are a capable offense.
They are a capable offense. That's a very good way to put it, Clark.
And if it starts to go, like the momentum starts to go that direction, and Gadsden has like 3 catches on a drive,
they get rolling.
I mean, did you see what the Penn State tight end did against USC when he had like
really funny.
17 catches?
He's hilarious.
but I mean, that's the kind of thing that could happen with Gadsden. Like over the years, we've seen these big tight ends like shred Tech's defense. And usually it's against a Northeast school. I'm envisioning Boston College in my head, but it's happened plenty of times before. So that's why I am seeing him in my nightmares.
Really quickly to wrap up the offense and to kind of bring it full circle, Syracuse is averaging 16.4 third downs per game. That is by far the most in the ACC.
Okay.
However, they are converting at 50%.
Ooh.
This is a team that lives and thrives on third down. Now, remember what I talked about for the Tech game against Georgia Tech. Held them to 25% on third and fourth down. That's going to be the key to this game. Syracuse is going to get to third down. If you stop them on third down, you're going to have a really good chance to stifle this offense because they rely almost exclusively every drive on getting multiple third down conversions.
This sounds like it's a West Coast. This is Bill Walsh offense. Like this is West Coast offense at its core. Yes. Like a short throw is as good as a run You know, it's like that's how our running game is. It's screenplays, it's quick outs, it's all that kind of stuff. Like this, it's Joe Montana's offense. Like that's what they're doing here. That's interesting, Sam. That's a lot of third downs, and that opens you up.
Lot.
That really opens you up. One, that can break a defense's spirit if you're converting a lot of third downs, but it also gives the defense a lot of chances to get off the field. Like we didn't mention Caleb Spencer earlier, but like he could have a big role in this game. Like maybe he's the guy that's out there trying to mark some of these slot receivers.
That nickel package will get a lot of work this week.
Yeah. All right, defense. This again, the D-line is the weakness here. I think their linebacking core is pretty good. Marlo Wax missed 5 games this year. He was preseason Shrine guy. He was a preseason first team All ACC, depending on the publication. He came back against Pitt. He only had 2 tackles, but that game we know wasn't good. But he's back, and the other guys, Justin Barron, who I guess grew out of safety because I think he was a safety last year. Derek McDonald. There's a couple other guys in their linebacking core. Like that's a really good group. And despite the D line not being great, they switched to this 4-3. I feel like the rush D hasn't been good, but that might be a way that they can stop Tootin.
Well, they haven't faced a lot of rushing plays this year. Guess they have faced less than 99 rushes in ACC play this year. They've only faced 99.
That seems low.
That's really, really low.
I mean,
like teams just haven't ran against them.
Yeah, they've played one less game than a lot of other teams because they all are only on 7 games. But
they've played 4. They've played 4 ACC.
4 ACC.
Stanford, Georgia Tech, Pitt,
and so 25 carries as a team is on the low side.
It's the lowest in the ACC.
Okay,
even for Pitt, who has 3 ACC games. So they haven't really been tested a lot as a rush defense. And considering that it was one of them was NC State and the other one was Stanford for ACC games. So I really do think Tech can run the ball a little bit better than maybe the metrics say in this game.
I hope so. Clark, what do you like? Have you been one of these guys that has been run the damn ball all year? Like, has that been your mantra?
Well, the way that the offense was set up at the beginning of the year with so many receiving weapons, you kind of expected a little pitch and catch around the yard there, but at this point, run the ball. I mean, that's what Brent Pry said when he came in. We want to run the ball, and so they've got the tailback for it. Always run the ball. It's always a good shot.
I think it's a good strategy against this team. I mean, if you look at just what they're doing against the pass, it's not great. And Sam, I think you talked a little bit about that on Monday, just that they're really struggling in pass defense.
115th in the country in passing success rate against them. One of the worst pass defenses in the country. They are 16th in opponent completion percentage in the ACC.
And they're 110th. They're 110th in red zone defense.
There you go, Clark.
Ooh, yeah, come on, Clark.
So this team
is you get it to the 20, you got a good shot.
This team is defense gives up a lot of pass completions.
Yeah.
Now,
they get a lot of pass completions, but they give up a lot too.
Well, what has been helpful for them is they haven't given up a ton of big passing plays. They haven't given up a lot of deep balls. They haven't given up a lot of those like 60-yard bombs. Defensively, their metrics are a lot like Old Dominions and Boston Colleges. They're a very bend, don't break defense.
Okay. I can work with that.
Historically, Tyler Bowen has done very well against bend, don't break defenses.
And I'm just looking at 87th in yards per rush allowed. And I'm just thinking, okay, Tootin's healthy. Let's go. Like
even if it's, I mean, I know he hasn't been the most stellar this year, but even Malachi Thomas, Jeremiah Coney, if Coney has to get in, get some touches. Oh yeah, Kyron Drones can run a lot too. Like Tech should feel pretty comfortable moving the ball in this game. Unless the offensive line just poops the bed like they did last week, Tech should be able to move the ball here.
They should be able to move the ball in both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's funny about, we thought, they'd come into the year with the wide receivers, as Clark was just saying, and throw a little bit more. We all thought that. We all thought they'd be like, a little bit more balanced or even maybe skew to the passing game. We're passing for 180 yards a game. That is so crazy in modern college football to be throwing for 180 yards a game. And I think the last 2 years, when we had Grant Wells 2 years ago, last year, Grant Wells at the beginning, and then switched to Kyron in his first year starting, we had 200 yards a game passing. So it's like we have all those wide receivers come back, and it's worse, like in terms of a total.
The efficiency is so much better, though. Kyron has the fourth best completion percentage in ACC play out of ACC quarterbacks.
Yeah, he had a really good run before the Georgia Tech game. He had a really nice three-week run of quarterback play.
He's coming to his own.
Yeah,
the confidence, right, Clark?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, special teams. Syracuse is dead last in the country in field goal percentage. Dead last.
Don't say that.
Don't say it. Oh,
don't say it.
I'll knock
Don't say
on wood or something.
They're bad, but don't say that's a jinx waiting to happen.
I know. GT was bad too. We actually
they were 50%. Of course, the guy made both attempts,
and he made like was it a 50-yarder or
something like that?
He made a long one.
Yeah,
40 something. Syracuse actually switched kickers 4 weeks ago, and they got a kid from Chantilly that's kicking for them now. They haven't made a kick over 40 yards this year, so just wait till this weekend, and they'll make sure to get that
exactly
done. If nothing else, I think when you are kicking that poorly, it makes your coach make decisions based on that, and that's
look
really,
at the Duke game.
Yeah,
the Duke missed 2 field goals or missed a field goal and extra point, and they decided to go for 2 and didn't win the game because of it against SMU.
All right, let's take a beer break before we do our overall final thoughts and some picks. Clark, are you having your second beer?
I am working on my second beer right now.
All right, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
So it's from Trogs, which is up in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Great brewery if you've never been there. It's a good place to visit. But when I saw it on the shelf at Barrel Chest here in Roanoke, I had to get it because of the name. Because it was only a couple weeks after I had bought my tickets to the Metallica concert at Lane Stadium, and it is the Master of Pumpkins.
Oh yeah, that is.
And
awesome.
So I saw that, I was like, this has to be at a tailgate this year. So Master of Pumpkins, it is a 7.5% ale, and as Sam was alluding to earlier, this is not the pumpkin pie kind of beer. It's more of the pumpkin puree taste to it. It's very good, but it's not sweet at all. But it's got a good finish. It's really smooth, but it's 7.5%. It'll catch up with you a little bit.
So that sounds a little bit like the Dogfish, which I love, which I think is my favorite. Now that's a brown ale, so it kind of is in a different category, but it's very low key pumpkin. You can still definitely taste the pumpkin. You can taste.
You can definitely taste the puree in this.
Oh yeah,
it's very good. Yeah.
I mean, Trogs makes great, like when they really are going for their big names, like whether it's Mad Elf or the Nugget Nectar.
That'll get after
like
you.
They do them right. Yeah. And so that's I got to get a hold of one of those too.
Roasted 3,000 pounds of local Pennsylvania pumpkins.
Hell yeah!
Back. Wow, that's a lot of pumpkins.
I am drinking the Atomic Pumpkin from New Belgium.
Spicy.
You have probably seen this thing, and yes, if you look at the can, they actually cross out special release and type in spicy release. And this thing is spicy, man. It's burning my throat.
It's good.
It's like, it's shocking. Like it really is like that cinnamon spice. That's a flavor that Sam doesn't enjoy. Like that, like the big red gum.
It's not quite like, like Fireball. Spicy.
It's not, but it leans that way.
But it's got the little kick. It hits the back of your throat there after you finish drinking.
Once it goes down, you do get that Fireball, like right here. It's not my favorite, but in the right environment with the right person, like my mother would probably love this beer. Like she likes Red Hots. She likes all that kind of like Fireball type thing. She'd be all over this, and she enjoys pumpkin beer. So maybe I'll have to get her a 6-pack or something. But yeah, New Belgium makes great beer. This is not my favorite one of them, but I've had it before and I do like it. Even like it's kind of like when you like something that hurts a little bit. You just kind of want to just see like
been there, Pete.
Yeah, we've all been there. It's called Virginia Tech football.
Hey, but shout out to New Belgium. They're one of the breweries down in Asheville. It still hurts my soul a little bit for everything that they're going through.
Yeah, man.
Breweries down there. I went down there for my bachelor party back in March, and some of those breweries no longer there. So it's
a shame.
It's great to support the Asheville scene. They will be back in full force. I have no doubt about it. That brewery scene was just epic.
I know, and I haven't gotten a chance to go, so I'm hoping they rebuild stronger than ever. Speaking of bachelor parties, I put all these beers in koozies to keep them cold as I was kind of moving through them. This is the koozie from my bachelor party. It says, it's me with a mustache, and it says, Pete's in too deep. One of my buddies made that for us, but that's what for me. That was a great trip. We went to Tampa. That was wild. But anyway, let's move on. Overall thoughts. Wait, Sam, were you drinking anything? Are you good?
I'm still sipping this thing. It's
Okay.
phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
All right, give us your overall thoughts on the matchup this weekend.
I think it is one that I statistically look at what Syracuse has done this year and what Tech has done this year. I think there are a lot of opportunities for Virginia Tech to have a really good offensive game after a stinker, right? You have a stinker game, you come back, you have a good one. It's going to be Virginia Tech's best opportunity for the rest of the season, I think, to have a good passing game. I think this is an opportunity to finally show the talent at the wide receiver, Kyron's ability. I don't think they're going to throw the ball a lot. Like I would max 23, 24 attempts, probably something like that. But I think it could be a very efficient and effective game for Kyron Jones through the air. And I also think it could be a game where the Hokies defense maybe doesn't shut them out, maybe doesn't keep them under 20 or something like that, but has a good game and makes some good plays. So I think the Hokies win this one by like 7-10 is kind of my vibe right now. Maybe we finally get a 1-score win under Brent Pry.
Wait a minute. Did you just say 7-10?
Like a 7-10 point win.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so sorry. Yeah. No,
That would be a nail biter.
I'm thinking like 30-21,
Okay.
34-24, something like that. And just kind of a bounce back game for the offense is what I'm looking for here.
Clark, what are your thoughts on the game?
Well, Syracuse scares the absolute hell out of me, just from going up there and just seeing it in person. It's just something about that dome, man. Like it's like Pitt. It's just it is going to be such a grind kind of game, even if Syracuse is struggling, like they did in 2016. The offense could be playing well. It's hard to say that that this is going to be a successful day without a couple of bounces to the ball for Tech. I mean, it's that they're not going to play as bad as they did against Pittsburgh. So the Hokies have to know that. They do. It's an all business trip. So it's going to be a close game. And if something bad happens for Syracuse, hopefully Tech can capitalize.
I think this game is more about our defense than it is our offense. I think our offense will be able to score enough points that it would warrant winning the game. It's about the linebacker play. It's about those corners covering. It's about the D-line getting pressure. All of it has to come together in this one. And the defense has played very well as of late. And so I feel pretty good about it. But to Clark's point about just the existential threat of the dome, when they've
only won twice there ever.
When they beat us in 2016, they were 4-8 that year. When they beat Clemson, when they were number 2 in the dome, they were 4-8 that year. Like they don't have to be good to beat us. And this year they kind of are good. Like they've got some playmakers. They've got good weapons for McCord. Their linebacker play is a strength. They're a good tackling team. We are going to have to play a very good game to win. So I feel good. It's weird having, like, we are getting points, right, Sam? Like we're 4-point favorites.
Tech is about 4 to 5 point favorites is what it will close at. I can tell you from my time in the industry, the dome is worth about 3 to 3.5 points. So neutral field, Tech by a touchdown. In Lane Stadium, Tech by 8-ish. So, it's one that Tech is favored to win by over a field goal. I do think, we talk about the dome and it's scary and all. Like, dude, Kyron was in middle school for that 2016 game. None of these guys were alive
In
When
2000,
when
none of them were
Donovan-
born.
None of them were
Yeah.
born. I do you know where I was when Donovan McNabb hit that touchdown in the corner?
I'm trying to do the
Nowhere.
math on
I
your
was not
age, yeah.
existing. Okay. So like we
That
gotta
was
we
bad.
gotta we gotta wait, that was 98 actually. I think I was
98, you
1
threw
year
up on
old.
the
I was
field.
I was
98.
one. I was
You
one.
were alive, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This is only a thing for the fans. It is only a thing for the fans, and I understand it because like I live it too. Like I have that feeling that y'all are having about the dome. I think these guys are fine. I think being a noon game helps because I don't think Syracuse will really pack that place out. However, they play 5 of 6 games on the road. This is their one home game in a very long stretch.
And it's Halloween. Well, I guess Halloween will be over.
That
then.
that helps Tech out a lot. Syracuse students on noon after Halloween Friday.
Oh yeah, that's good. That is
Not
good.
bad.
And they
That's-
just played horribly. So like I can't imagine people are dying to get to the game.
The sports,
just gotta jump
sports
on it.
journalism students don't have a lot of homework, Pete. They're not.
So who does Giovanni Heater root for in this one?
We'll have to,
He better be rooting for the school that's going to have its name on his diploma.
dude. He done got Lane Stadium tattooed on him. I'll tell you.
I'm just kidding. I listen
shout out
to
Gio.
TSL all the time. I'm just
Gio
having
does
fun.
all the Salem Red Sox games here. Really good dude.
Oh really? Okay, nice.
Games circled for years. He's ready. He'll be
Another 3304 sports journalism program shout out. Kyle Marchak is a finalist for the Jim Nance Award.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. So congratulations. That program continues to pump out stars.
Yeah, man. That's it's a factory at this point, man.
Mhm.
They're putting and Evan Hughes just had the Megan Duffy show last night. He was doing some work on that, among many other things that he does. But
I saw Evan on Saturday after the Georgia Tech game, and he's extremely excited for basketball season to get started.
he's pumped,
I mean,
man.
Evan
love
doesn't
it.
hide it. He will show his emotion on sleeve. He is so ready.
I love it, man. That's awesome. But yeah, all right. So we did all this stuff. I will say my last point on the dome, whatever. We exercised the demons of Norfolk earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get the dome done too.
Yep.
Let's just wipe it out all in one season, and let's be happy campers because 6-3 and bowl eligible with a few games left. That would be nice. That would be real nice.
That's a W. That's a W.
So let's go to picks. Let's talk a couple of games and we'll get out of here. Ohio State at Penn State. This is a huge game with playoff implications. If Ohio State were to lose this game, that would be pretty bad for them, honestly. And Penn State is 3.5-point underdogs. They're underdogs at home. This is a noon game, right, Sam? Which I did find a little bizarre. I don't know why this
Fox's Big Noon Saturday.
An affront to the American people. But I'll tell you what, has the state of Pennsylvania ever had a bigger weekend since 1776? Because a whole lot of people are going to be real interested in the state of Pennsylvania this weekend.
That's very true.
I got Penn State in this one because I think Ohio State has serious offensive line issues. They have some injuries there. They don't look comfortable. Oregon was able to get to them without Oregon's best defensive lineman. Nebraska was able to get to them last week. I think Penn State's going to be able to get to them. I like the Nittany Lions in this one.
And you're getting a hook. So
yeah, you are.
I'm taking Penn State as well. Clark, what are you thinking?
I'm definitely feeling Penn State. They've had this game circled, and I watched the USC game, and I know USC's having their struggles this year, but Penn State's battle tested.
Yeah, they've played well. They played really well this year, and that matchup of their defense against a struggling Ohio State offensive line, the Sam said, that's juicy. All right, Duke at Miami. Miami 20.5-point favorites. Should Miami be a 20-point favorite against? I mean, they did cover last week, but it was by like a hair of their chinny chin chin.
I have a bet on Duke to cover 21. I could see Miami winning this game by like 45, though.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Clark, what are you thinking?
This is such a stinky game right here.
It is stinky.
I don't know.
Smelly.
For some reason, I'm just thinking like Miami wins by like 18. And
Yeah.
Duke ends
I
up
take that.
covering backdoor. Like it just wouldn't surprise me because it's Duke. Miami probably isn't going to play their starters the whole game if they have that big of a lead. 18 points. They're not really caring about the spread, so I'd take Duke.
Yeah, I'm taking Duke as well. We're in agreement right now. That could be a bad thing. All right, next game. I'm doing just 3 more, and we'll be done. Texas Tech at Iowa State. I put this on here. This is one of Sam's playoff teams. Iowa State 14.5-point favorites in the pick'em. That's a lot of points, man.
Yeah, give me the Cyclones though. Texas Tech can't play defense. I got Cyclones in this one all day.
Be right back.
All right.
I think it's going to be a big game for Iowa State.
I
bye week.
I like Texas Tech in this one. I just feel like it's not that I don't think Iowa State will win. It's that I think they could win by 13.
That's true. It's true.
14.5 just seems like a lot to me in this Big 12, which has been just kind of all over the place.
And Texas,
give me Iowa State.
Let's go,
yeah, dude. That's nice. You got to roll into a bar with that thing.
That's right.
Man,
got the legit Big 12 patch on there. Yeah.
How often do they
Give
wear
me Iowa State?
I'm trying to think of them wearing
they
yellow.
don't wear yellow a lot.
Yeah,
They've kind of leaned towards the black lately, but I've got a white and gold Iowa State jersey.
That's awesome, dude. Next one we're gonna take is Oregon at Michigan. Oregon going to the big house. Michigan 14.5-point underdogs. Call me crazy. I'm taking Big Blue.
You're crazy. Quack, quack. Quack, quack by like 38.
I bet Oregon
38. Okay.
Oregon is going to just roll all over them. They have to.
But is this the week on the road where they flop a little bit? I mean, they should be focused. It's the defending national champs, and that's one of the problems that Michigan's having this year, I think, is that everyone goes into the Michigan game. It's like, oh, this was the champion, so we need to nut up and play hard. I don't know. For some reason, that hook is calling my name. I'm taking Michigan. Louisville at Clemson. Clemson, 11.5-point favorites. This is on prime time. I think Clemson, they've been playing so well. Louisville has not ever looked – I don't know what their identity is, really. I'm going with Clemson.
I think this is one of the few teams Clemson plays this year, though, that can score with them, which is weird to say because I thought their offense wasn't going to be any good. I could see Louisville keeping this close. Clemson has a couple stinkers every year. A lot of times that comes at home. So I could see Louisville keeping this game close.
Interesting.
Clemson stinker was the first half of the Virginia game. I mean, they've been rolling right. And you kind of want them to play.
Even the beginning of the Wake game, they've been asleep a couple times this year at the beginning of games, and then they come through.
But you want them to play well when they come to Blacksburg. You want them to be feeling good.
Yes.
So I think Clemson's the pick on this.
We're doing that as the vibes. Like, hey, Clemson,
that's right.
Come on, go out there and cover. Feel great about yourselves. Come to Blacksburg and catch a loss. I mean, because that is our hopes for ACC title game are still alive. We need to effectively win out. I mean, that's what is assumed. Yeah. And so that involves beating Clemson. So we want everything to go just so to get us a win. Because we'll talk about it next week, I guess. But like, if we were to beat Clemson a week from
and Syracuse.
Yeah, gotta win this weekend first.
Just forget about Syracuse. Forget about ACC title. Forget about Syracuse for a second. If we were to beat Clemson this year, would it be the biggest win for Virginia Tech in, I don't know, 5 years?
Since Ohio State.
Yeah, 8 years.
It'd be right up there for sure. The Carolina.
We have
game
not had a lot of big
21
wins.
was pretty big.
Carolina
21.
21. Yeah.
At the time, we didn't know what would happen at the end of the season or with how Carolina kind of fell.
We know that Clemson's better than that Carolina team.
Right.
Yeah, we'd have to do that whole damn bracket again, guys. Like,
but yeah, like that. Regardless of what happens at Syracuse, that Clemson game has that would be an amazing win for Brent Pry and this program. Because you also know, and this could happen this weekend too, that we're not beating Clemson probably by more than one score. And Brent Pry has a very bad record in one score games, and Syracuse could be one score. And we gotta find a way to come out on top. All right. Make sure you subscribe. Sons of Saturday channel on YouTube, Sons of Saturday, and Too Deep on your podcast feed. Thank you, Clark, for joining us. And I see, Clark, you've got the Hokies script.
The script Hokies. This is the men's basketball version.
That's the men's basketball, and that wasn't the script that the Suns like ripped your image today and posted it on Twitter.
Yeah, Billy Ray, cite your sources, buddy.
There was a lot of scripts.
I saw that post. I was like, oh, that's what I made a while back. It was funny. Izzy and I were talking about it this evening, and she's like, you made that graphic so we could test different fonts for our wedding invitations. And I was like,
oh, that's hilarious. But the one that you're wearing wasn't one of them.
It was not. This actually isn't a font. I actually got the photograph from the jersey, from one of the men's basketball jerseys, and traced it on Adobe Illustrator and made this. So
you made that yourself?
So I made this, and with the help of Jason Schwartz from SWVA Shop.
Very
so
nice.
He and I and Christian Webster on the basketball team are the only three. Oh no, Jordan Long also has one as well. So we've made 4 of them.
Well, Sam just talked to Christian Webster.
I did. What a segue, Pete.
He's a great dude. Great dude.
I talked to him at the interview with JD Byers, assistant coach for the Hokies. That one is out now, and I have another sit down with Christian Webster. That went awesome. Those guys, like the whole basketball coaching staff, is as friendly, articulate, easygoing as you could ask for. It's going to be an interesting basketball season, but I think one that'll be a really fun time to watch this team progress.
I'm more excited to watch this year's team than I was last year's team. I don't know why that is.
Me too.
It might be because the athleticism or just the new faces, but I'm very excited. If you made it to the end of the podcast, comment on YouTube with the word, first of all, cheers. Second of all, comment on YouTube with the word script.
Script Hokies.
And until next time, go Hokies.
Go Hokies.